setelah itu respon daripada SKPD akan bergantian, termasuk bagian keuangan, bagian-bagian akan bicara, para camat akan bicara, dan tentunya semua itu diawali dari pengarahan Bapak Gubernur dan Pak Kepala Badan, yang insya Allah hari ini kita mengusung tema yaitu Low Carbon City with Metaverse. Perlu kami sampaikan, dalam 3 tahun terakhir ini kami mengusung yang pertama adalah Metaverse pada saat periode saya kedua di tahun pertama, yang kedua tahun lalu adalah Resilient City, dan yang ketiga tahun ini adalah Low Carbon City with Metaverse. Rakorsus ini sudah berlangsung 7 kali Pak Gubernur, Pak Kepala Badan, dan alhamdulillah inilah motor engine pemerintah Kota Makassar untuk memacu dan memicu SKPD saling berkolaborasi, saling memberi ide, saling mengkritisi, saling mendebat, dan insya Allah sebentar akan debat atau diskusi ini akan dipimpin oleh Bapak Profesor Ansari Hadi dari Universitas Hasanuddin. Beliau selalu mendampingi kami atau pemerintah kota selama COVID, dan kebetulan pembicara-pembicara internasional speaker ini banyak teman-teman beliau. Untuk itu, atas nama pemerintah Kota Makassar menyampaikan terima kasih atas kehadiran Bapak-bapak Ibu sekalian, terkhusus Bapak Kepala Badan Strategis Kebijakan Dalam Negeri, Bapak PJ Gubernur, Konsulat Jenderal Jepang, para institutional speaker, para national speaker, Forkompinda Provinsi, Forkompinda Kota Makassar, DPRD di sini, mohon maaf saya lupa tadi, DPRD Kota Makassar. Saya ingin menyampaikan selamat teman-teman terpilih kembali, alhamdulillah. Tepuk tangan dulu. Kebetulan beliau bertiga ini alhamdulillah terpilih kembali. Dan tentunya pada kesempatan ini pula izinkan saya menyampaikan memohon pengarahan Bapak Gubernur dan Bapak Kepala Badan di dalam pembukaan acara Rakorsus ini. Terima kasih, lebih dan kurang yang mohon dimaafkan. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kami ucapkan atas sambutan Wali Kota Makassar Bapak Insinyur Haji Muhammad Ramdan Pomanto. Baiklah Bapak Ibu hadirin seluruh peserta Rapat Koordinasi Khusus Pemerintah Kota Makassar tahun 2024. Selanjutnya, sambutan penjabat Gubernur Sulawesi Selatan kepada Bapak Dr. Bahtiar Baharudin MSI dengan hormat disilakan. Boleh kita berikan aplaus yang paling meriah?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Saya tiba di bandara jam 4 subuh. Saya pulang dari Jakarta karena menghormati undangan saudara saya ini, Wali Kota Makassar. Dan forum ini saya bangga sekali, seorang wali kota di Indonesia namanya Haji Dani Pomanto yang punya ide yang luar biasa dan berkelas internasional. Saya kadang-kadang cemburu sama beliau. Kalau di luar negeri, Pak Komjen, lebih terkenal Makassar daripada Sulawesi Selatan. Kalau orang di luar negeri itu kenalnya Makassar. Sulawesi Selatan tidak banyak yang tahu. Yang banyak. Jadi itu luar biasa, kita Makassar ini dipimpin seorang wali kota yang memang berwawasan internasional, namanya Haji Dani Pomanto. Tepuk tangan buat beliau. Dan didampingi oleh seorang perempuan hebat, Haja Indira, Ketua Tim Penggerak PKK Kota Makassar. Ibu, selamat pagi yang cerah ini. Kemudian ada hadir langsung senior saya ini. Ini orang perencanaan, mantan Kabel Biro Perencanaan Kemendagri, Bangda, kemudian pernah Dirjen PMD, kemudian sekarang Kepala Bagian Kajian Strategik Kebijakan di Kemendagri Bapak Dr. Yusharto. Yeah. Istrinya juga orang sini juga, orang Maros istrinya beliau itu, alumni PDN Makassar juga. Itu senior ya? Iya, beliau sama-sama kami Dirjen di Kementerian Dalam Negeri. Kemudian secara khusus para anggota Forkompimda Provinsi Sulawesi Selatan yang wakili Pangdam, yang wakili Kapolda, kemudian Dalam Tamal, yang wakili Pangkopsud 2, kemudian Lanut, kemudian dari Basarnas, dari tokoh-tokoh agama yang saya muliakan, dari Brimob ya juga ada, kemudian kawan-kawan dari Kejaksaan Tinggi, kemudian kawan-kawan dari Forkompimda Kota Makassar, Forkompimda Plus, karena instansi-instansi di luar Forkompimda juga banyak hadir. Kemudian secara khusus, kemudian seluruh sahabat-sahabat saya, pejabat dan karyawan Pemprov Sulsel yang hari ini akan berdialog sampai jam 2 malam. Tepuk tangan buat kawan-kawan semua. Pak Komjen Jepang, saya terus terang sudah lama juga saya jadi pegawai di Kementerian Dalam Negeri bersama Pak Yusharto. Baru pertama kali ini saya melihat proses musyawarah, dialog untuk mendiskusikan tentang perencanaan pembangunan kota 1 tahun ke depan dalam skala besar, 1.200 orang, luar biasa. Ini ide yang luar biasa dan dihadiri oleh para narasumber dari luar negeri langsung, kemudian ada narasumber nasional dan expert dari bidang perkotaan dan lingkungan. Saya pertama memberi apresiasi secara spesifik kepada tema yang diangkat atau gagasan low carbon city dengan metaverse yang digagas oleh Pak Wali Kota Makassar. Saya kira ini ide yang luar biasa karena dunia hari ini memang mengalami nasib yang sama. Mungkin umur bumi juga sudah tua. Daya dukung planet bumi itu mulai menurun. Saya kira tahun 2023 waktu cobaan terbesar bagi sejarah planet di dunia, bumi kita itu terpanas sepanjang sejarah dunia. Sulsel ini saja kami di sini bulan September bisa sampai 36 derajat Celcius. Dari situ saja ukurannya bahwa memang ada sesuatu yang secara nyata yang berubah dari lingkungan. Memang daya duyung lingkungan sudah berubah. Khusus Sulawesi Selatan, saya sudah keliling Sulsel 24 kabupaten kota, baik dari darat maupun melalui udara. Saya melihat lingkungan Sulawesi Selatan memang ada yang berubah. Tahun 1991 saya kuliah di Fakultas Hukum Universitas Hasanuddin, naik motor pulang dari Makassar ke Bone, itu sepanjang jalan pohon pinus, dingin sekali. Lebih besar suara hewan di hutan dibanding suara motor. Hari ini sepanjang jalan kering, tidak dingin lagi. 2/3 lebih alam di Sulsel itu sudah menurun daya dukungnya. Gunung-gunung, lembah-lembah, sungai-sungai, hampir sudah tidak ada pohon-pohon besar yang mengikat batu maupun tanah. Akibatnya sungai-sungai di Sulawesi Selatan itu airnya menjadi coklat. Kata orang Makassar, mulai botok mie airnya. Bahkan tempat tertentu dulu sumber mata air yang besar seperti di Bone Barat Sumber mata air dulu waktu saya kecil, kita kecil, berenang di sungai-sungai dengan air yang mengalir dari gunung-gunung batu di Bone Barat. Sekarang sudah tidak ada itu. Bahkan beberapa air terjun, ada 101 air terjun di Sulawesi Selatan, Pak Komjen. Juga menurun debit airnya. Airnya pun mulai tidak jernih lagi. Banyak diantaranya sudah menjadi coklat. Artinya memang benar sekali Makassar dipimpin oleh Pak Haji Dani Pomanto, Pak Wali Kota, memiliki gagasan besar dengan ide low carbon city dengan metaverse. Konkret beliau sudah melakukan banyak hal. Hampir beberapa sarana pelayanan publik saya lihat langsung tadi sudah migrasi menggunakan listrik. Beberapa kendaraan dan satu ide besar beliau tadi, kalau itu jadi bis keliling kotanya itu dengan baterai, wah luar biasa sekali. Ini lompatan. Jadi ini menjadi kota yang sangat sehat di waktu-waktu yang akan datang. Oleh karenanya, pekerjaan terbesar yang harus dilakukan seorang wali kota, bupati, gubernur, bahkan presiden seluruh dunia, bagaimana membangun ekosistem lingkungan. Karena yang tadi alamnya seluruh dunia ini berubah. Tahun ini kita tahu bahwa upaya keras kita menuju Indonesia 2045, menuju Indonesia 2060, kita hendak menurunkan emisi karbon yang pada tingkat tertinggi supaya kembali kita menghijaukan lingkungan kita. Bahkan kami di Pemprov dalam penyusunan rencana pembangunan jangka panjang Sulsel sekarang juga sedang disusun, yaitu kita hendak membangun Sulsel yang mandiri, maju dan berkelanjutan dalam ekosistem ekonomi biru. Ini ujungnya adalah ekonomi biru. Oleh karenanya, ketika Kota Makassar memiliki gagasan besar untuk mendorong low carbon, kemudian lingkungan yang hijau, itu sudah selaras dengan rencana pembangunan Sulawesi Selatan 20 tahun ke depan, kita menuju ekonomi biru. Jadi bolehlah lingkungan kita olah ini alam, darat, laut kita olah, tetapi harus kita pastikan bahwa lingkungan ini juga tetap terjaga dan manusia yang hidup di atasnya juga mendapatkan udara yang sehat, lingkungan yang sehat. Saya kira Makassar bisa akan menjadi contoh positif bagi kota-kota di Indonesia dan juga kabupaten kota di Sulawesi Selatan yang telah membangun daerah ini, kota ini menjadi kota yang sangat sehat, lingkungan sangat sehat. Bapak Ibu yang saya muliakan, kawan-kawan seluruh perguruan tinggi, kawan-kawan dari para pengusaha, kawan-kawan Pemda Kota Makassar, kami atas nama pemerintah provinsi sungguh mengapresiasi berbagai ide dan gagasan yang capaian yang telah dicapai oleh Bapak Wali Kota Makassar dan jajaran. Dan Pak Dani Pomanto ini saya baru bukan kenal hari ini, saya sudah kenal lama beliau. Pak Dr. Yusarto, Pak Dirjen juga tahu. Kalau di Kemendagri Pak Komjen, setiap ada penyerahan hadiah di tingkat nasional, penghargaan, itu pasti ada Wali Kota Makassar. Saya justru penasaran beliau itu. Ini luar biasa, hampir seluruh desabet, semuanya. Jadi ikonnya Sulawesi Selatan itu Pak Dani Pomanto. Pak Pomanto sehat, Sulsel sehat. Ya, Jadi beliau memang menjadi salah satu role model wali kota di Indonesia. Tidak banyak wali kota yang memiliki kemampuan seperti itu. Saya kenal hampir seluruh bupati wali kota Indonesia karena saya ini dirjen di Kementerian Dalam Negeri. Ada 93 ya wali kota seluruh Indonesia, sisanya 514 itu 500 sekian itu adalah bupati wali kota, bupati. Kita kenal apa yang dilakukan di 514 kabupaten kota seluruh Indonesia. Dan Makassar ini kita lihat luar biasa pencapaian pembangunan yang di bawah pimpinan Pak Dhani Fumanto, dan hari ini beliau mengikrarkan mengajak berdialog seluruh masyarakat bagaimana menghijaukan Makassar, bagaimana menurunkan emisi karbon di wilayah selatan. Dan saya sebagai gubernur dukung sepenuhnya apa yang bisa dilakukan oleh provinsi, termasuk tata ruang Makassar yang bagus sudah disusun oleh Makassar, kami juga dukung. Kalau perlu saya menyesuaikan, ya, saya menyesuaikan, karena saya tahu pasti sudah dipikirkan lebih detail oleh kawan-kawan bupati wali kota, rancangan bangun tata ruang yang sudah direncanakan. Akhir kata, sebelum saya tutup ini, saya juga punya pekerjaan besar sama Pak Wali Kota, yang juga nanti di lingkungannya juga nanti pasti juga kaitannya low carbon. Bapak Presiden Republik Indonesia sudah menugaskan kepada saya untuk mengumumkan kepada masyarakat selatan bahwa tahun ini beliau akan membangunkan stadion bola di Makassar. Dan saya ditugaskan bersama Pak Wali Kota memastikan infrastruktur sekitar stadion yang merupakan wilayah Kota Makassar. Saya sudah disampaikan Pak Wali Kota mendukung sepenuhnya pembangunan infrastruktur di sekitar stadion. Tapi terima kasih Pak Wali. Saya atas nama pemerintah provinsi sangat respek dan hormat. Terima kasih atas dukungannya. Di akhir kata, meleki tepada mele, tepada maminanga, tasia lambuang, yang artinya mari kita menjalin hubungan baik supaya apa yang dicita-citakan menjadi kenyataan. Sekian wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih
kami ucapkan kepada penjabat Gubernur Sulawesi Selatan, Bapak Dr. Bahtiar Baharudin MSI, yang juga telah menyampaikan sambutan di acara Rapat Koordinasi Khusus Pemerintah Kota Makassar Tahun 2024 pada pagi hari ini. Dan untuk para tamu undangan sekalian, untuk selanjutnya kita akan bersama-sama langsung memasuki sesi pertama dari Rapat Koordinasi Khusus kita pada pagi hari ini, dikarenakan adanya perbedaan waktu antara Indonesia dengan Amerika Serikat. Jadi sekali lagi kita untuk sesi yang berikutnya ini akan langsung masuk ke sesi pembicara yang pertama.
Ya, betul sekali Bapak Ibu hadirin, sebelum melanjutkan mendengarkan sambutan dan mengikuti pembukaan secara resmi Rakorsus Pemerintah Kota Makassar tahun 2024, kita ikuti sesi pertama bersama dengan Mr. Helen Santiago Fing yang akan dipandu oleh moderator Senior Researchers at Hasanuddin University. Kepada Bapak Ansariadi SKM MSc PhD kami persilakan. Sesi materi pertama akan kita dengarkan materi dari Miss Helen Santiago Fing.
Langsung saja kami persilakan kepada moderator untuk memandu jalannya sesi materi yang pertama.
Thank you very much, Moderator MC, for such wonderful introductions.
You're welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning all of you. I use also good morning because some of the participants from different parts of the world, such as in USA. Honorable the Governor of South Sulawesi, Dr. Bahtiar Baharudin, Honorable Director General from Ministry of Internal Affairs, Dr. Yusarto, Honorable Makassar Mayor, Bapak Insinyur Dane Pomento, Honorable the Head of Council of Ulama, distinguished speakers from different parts of the globe, particularly from USA, Australia, China, Singapore, and Japan. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ansari Adi. I will be the moderator for these sessions. Gives me a great pleasure to be the moderator for this special coordination meeting with the themes Makassar Low Carbon City with Metaverse. We will have first sessions, but in these first sessions will be divided into two subsessions because of different time zones. In USA, I think it's now 9:30 p.m. So it was last night in Makassar. So thank you very much for our distinguished speaker, Helen Santiago Fing from USA. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the first speaker. Dr. Helen Santiago Fing is a climate urbanist, researcher and consultant based in Washington, D.C. She is currently working at the U.S. Department of State as the program manager, U.S.-ASEAN Smart City Partnerships. She has been working for more than 2 decades in a multidisciplinary expertise in sustainable development, climate change, urban planning, energy efficiency, community and economic development. Helen has worked at the global, national and local scale as technical advisor and program manager for organizations, including United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, National United Nations Environment Program on UNEP, World Bank, European Commission's Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. First, I would like to check, Helen, can you hear me? Oh, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, allow me to welcome Dr. Helen Santiago Fing. Helen, time and screen is yours. Helen, time's yours. Can you hear us? It looks you still unmute.
Very much.
Thank you.
And thank you very much to Mayor Pomanto and his team for the invitation. It was a pleasure to host the mayor in Washington, D.C. in 2022 as part of our National Science Foundation Smart Garden Alley program. So, with that, can you see my first slide, Global City Context?
Yes.
Good. So allow me to start by saying, as we move forward to decarbonizing our cities, it is important to have a broader global context and to understand the impact on the biosphere. Cities represent, on a global scale, 70% of carbon or greenhouse gas emissions, and approximately 75% of global energy demand. In addition, cities have a tremendous demand and need for natural resources, as well as are big producers of waste. Cities are a microcosm of the Sustainable Development Goals, in that cities have to be supportive or improving the situation for poverty communities. They need to provide clean water and wastewater treatment facilities. They need to provide the urban infrastructure to be able to provide mobility, transportation, education, and many more urban services. In this respect, when we think about a net zero, low carbon city, we need to think about forward-looking policy, integrated urban planning, and the use of technology and data to be able to address local needs that address the social, economic, and environmental challenges of cities. A smart, sustainable city is one that's connected and integrated, working across departments and working across sectors. It is one that is green and respects its natural capital and works with its local ecosystems. It is one that's resource efficient and takes a circular economy approach, addressing SDG 12, sustainable consumption and production. And ultimately, it is one that is sustainable and resilient, both from the perspective of reducing carbon emissions and ensuring that the city has the capacity to address climatic changes. Carbon action at the city scale requires and can very much underscore and strengthen national determined commitments, the NDCs. And in doing so, it is really timely that cities have the governance relationships at the subnational and national level. It is essential that they have the resources, both financial and human resources, that they have the research and innovation institutions and capacities to implement the policies, programs, and low carbon investments really to move towards a net zero urban trajectory. The US-ASEAN Smart Cities Partnership is currently a $12 million portfolio with over 20 plus projects in the region. It is one that focuses on 10 key pillars, and for the sake of time, I will only highlight a few of them under my presentation today. But allow me to underscore the importance of having climate finance available to cities. It is important for national governments to understand the value of bringing subnational climate finance at the disposal of cities to be able to catalyze and put in place not only the urban infrastructure necessary to provide the urban services, from water to education to mobility, also to be able to catalyze businesses that are net zero and that embrace a low carbon commitment, both in terms of provision of services and provision of products. Cities across the world, and Makassar is one of them, that are struggling to be able to address the emissions and move transportation towards a low carbon trajectory. Also, the built environment is a critical area of use of fossil fuels and is one in which decarbonization and moving towards green buildings and green buildings innovation can put cities and can put Makassar on that trajectory to be a low carbon net zero city. Clearly, energy innovation or energy modeling can help support that trajectory to be able to see what are those key sectors. And looking at the use of integrated urban services and systems like food, water, energy, and waste can help support that trajectory. As well as looking at circularity. Circularity is one that actually reinforces the carbon and the climate agenda, and it focuses on the resource and recovery of materials and the reuse of them. Advancing a carbon neutral agenda or a carbon decarbonization agenda requires having the multi-level governance structures and working transdisciplinary across sectors. Let me focus on the areas that I like to highlight now. The experiences that we have learned from the Smart Cities Partnership is being able to capitalize a Smart Cities Business Innovation Fund. And this is something that we did in 2022 as a pilot to be able to test and to prove the demand for subnational climate finance. We received across ASEAN $14 million of demand for small businesses and startups from universities and NGOs to be able to provide services and products for net zero urban innovation, to be able to address urban challenges. We were able to fund just 6 across the ASEAN region, and we're very happy to say that we actually selected one from Indonesia in Tangerang that is focusing on bioplastics from seaweed, using seaweed as a feedstock to be able to create sustainable packaging. We also were able to look ahead at the energy transition and look at the use and the demand for solar energy. The demand of solar energy now has tremendous market potential and already has tremendous market demand across the region. In some countries more than others. But soon, and in Makassar, I have the pleasure to say that we will be working with the city to be able to supply some of the smart garden alleys with photovoltaics to be able to support some of its activities. But what the point that I want to stress is that we need to look at the circular economy and to be able to support the ASEAN Circular Economy Framework from 2001 to look ahead. And when we look at products and we look at the circularity that needs to take place, just as this example for solar panels, when the end of life of the solar panel comes to an end, what will happen to it? And for that reason, we were able to finance a solar panel recycling facility in Da Nang, Vietnam, to be able to take that panel at its end of life and to be able to break it down into its components, to be able to use those resources, the glass, the silicon, and the other rare earth minerals, to be able to have a new life and to have a circularity perspective. So this is what I mean by looking at the circular economy framework and being able to look at circularity across any sector. This can be done from solar panels to textiles to the building materials that go into construction. Once again, this is the company Biopack here in Indonesia, and I encourage you to look at their website. They have tremendous amount of products that may be of need and demand and are truly biodegradable and moving and supportive of net zero. The circular economy, we've learned across the region, takes many shapes and forms, and we have, working with our partners in Singapore, been able to host a delegation of ASEAN to the US to be able to speak about the different types of circular economy that could be done. For example, in the construction and demolition sector, in the building space, there is a tremendous amount of concrete, of wood, of other glass, of other materials that can be recycled for new products and that can help create a whole new supply chain that is low carbon and helps create jobs, and helps mitigate environmental impacts. We have a program with the Rochester Institute of Technology, which I'm happy to say is working with a number of universities here in Indonesia to be able to provide an education curriculum how to create circular entrepreneurs. And they will be presenting their education and their startup capital at a future event here in Indonesia or here in the region this year. And also, allow me to share that we are working with the Japanese on a specific focus on circularity, looking at e-waste and how we can capture the e-waste from small circuitry, from telephones, from laptops, to be able to once again disassemble the products, to be able to separate the components that have value, rare earth minerals, and to be able to create new businesses and new opportunities across the region, both here in Indonesia and other countries in the ASEAN region. The building sector is another sector, as I touched on before, that has tremendous opportunity to help a city decarbonize and move towards net zero. The building sector is approximately 30% of carbon emissions across cities on a global scale. And this simply shows two of the delegations and the programs that we've done across the ASEAN region with participation not only from the Indonesian region, but from all the countries, hosted in Singapore, both in 2022 and in 2023, and we'll be repeating this opportunity in 2024. So looking at the carbon sector, both from an operational carbon as well as from an embodied carbon, what are the materials that go in to construct those buildings? The focus that we would, or the message that we'd like to share is when you look at your built environment, look at it from not only and not specifically from a new construction perspective, but take a look at the building sector from a retrofit and a renovation perspective. How can you retrofit existing buildings using what's already, the footprint that's already there, and that will allow you to help decarbonize the sector in your city. We have a program that is with the University of North Carolina in Charlotte, and it is working with a number of ASEAN universities, and one here in Indonesia, the Gadjah Mada University, to be able to train the new generation of architects, urban planners, building engineers, and looking at the innovation that can be brought to bear in the green building space. This link that I have here are all the modules and the courses that are available publicly for free, and they talk about bioclimatic design, building life cycle assessment, circularity in buildings, net zero design, sustainable materials, and many more that can help you put you on the trajectory towards green buildings. The green buildings and the built environment have tremendous opportunity to be able to not only decarbonize, but also to bring in nature-based solutions to be able to once again support higher energy performance in your buildings, to be able to provide the surface area for photovoltaics or solar panels, to be able to provide the green space in the footprint or within the surrounding areas to be able to provide and help mitigate climatic changes such as urban inundation, to be able to help prevent against or mitigate against extreme heat, and to be able to provide human, physical, and mental health through the multifaceted and multifunctional benefits and co-benefits of what we call nature-based solutions and green infrastructure, of which the built environment can provide multiple opportunities. Let me just say that cities need to take advantage of their natural capital or their urban ecosystems. There is tremendous opportunities to be able to, not only for from a social, from an economic, and from an environmental perspective to use the natural capital and the tree canopy coverage and the vegetation in cities to be able to support a decarbonization agenda. But unfortunately, the trajectory is, and cities are being, because of urbanization pressures, they are losing their tree canopy coverage and their ecosystems. And I encourage you to be able to look towards integrated urban planning and to plan with your natural capital to be able to ensure that you can decarbonize your city and at the same time ensure that you have the services and facilities that you need. So to be able to create a more socio-economic and environmental balance. And with that, I like to say simply, moving forward, cities need to work with their national governments and with the private sector partners and academia to be able to create and put forth tangible commitments towards urban sustainability, strengthening research and innovation, and the governance structures, and creating the investments to put forth sustainable urban systems to be able and to also optimize the multifunctionality of natural systems for broad socioeconomic and environmental benefits. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Helen, for such wonderful presentation. And mungkin sekali lagi kita berikan aplaus kepada Ibu Helen. Helen, are you still joining with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. There will be one question to respond your presentation, and there is a lecture from University of Gajah Mada. Oh, sorry, ITB, Institut Teknologi Bandung. Dr. Doni Kurniawang, who is joining us online, would like to respond to your presentation. Dr. Joni, can you hear me? Dr. Doni Kurniawan from Institut Teknologi Bandung. Dr. Joni is not join with us, and kami minta mungkin ada satu pertanyaan dari peserta jika ingin bertanya kepada Ibu Helen. No. Any question from the floor? Okay, Helen, you talking about circular economy and green building, and ada pertanyaan? Yeah, one question from the floor for 5 minutes. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kamarudin Aziz from the Hasanuddin University alumni of Makassar. I was involved in the previous project with GIZ and Seco Swiss, and we facilitate community or stakeholders across the 4 districts in South Sulawesi province, what we call Maminasata, Goa, Makassar, Takalar, and Maros. We are trying to push what we call better mass rapid transportation here. And we face that it's not easy because the difficulties in what we call building trust among the stakeholders between those 4 districts. It's not easy to pursue our target because of the, what can I say, a different perspective from the head of district, including also the governor. There's promises from the European Investment Bank to fund us 3 trillion rupiah, 3 triliun berapa ya? 3 billion US dollar, and we failed to proceed the project because of the, what can I say, no coordination at all. Thank you. What do you think about that situation? How about your advice to make it happen for near future in Indonesia? Thank you.
Helen, can you directly respond to that? Thank you.
Shall I answer the question? Yes, thank you, Mr. Naziz, for the question. Yes, it is a common challenge to be able to reach consensus. I fully understand. So what I suggest and what is recommended is to be able to bring at the beginning of the project, even before you have anything on paper, you have all the stakeholders that will touch this project, whether it's the builder, whether it's the manager, or whether it's the end user, and you have them all together to be able to actually help co-design and co-develop the project. It's initially important to be able to hear from all sides and the multiple stakeholders, and there will be many of them, I could imagine, in a big project like this. But it is important to at least hear everybody, and then to be able to try to put as many of those ideas in a feasible manner to be able to co-create and to allow everyone to have their opinion and to have their suggestions, and then technical experts and those that are designing the projects will have already heard and will try to incorporate as much as possible. So at least you will have given from the very beginning, though. From the very beginning, it's important to have all the stakeholders in the room and to allow for at least an initial co-creation of the design. And then when you have a design, you have to bring it back to the community, and you have to bring it back to all the stakeholders for them once again to comment on it. And it's an iterative process. It's a process that is step by step, and that can be slow and lengthy, but hopefully at the end of the day, you will have as much success as possible and as many common interests coming together. So I wish you much success. We all suffer with the same thing.
Thank you very much, Helen, for emphasizing the importance of co-design and co-creating at the beginning of the project, because that will bring all those stakeholders together. Thank you. And Dr. Doni from ETB already joined with us, and he would like to give one question in response to your presentation. Dr. Doni, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Doni. Please go straight to your question to Dr. Helen.
Okay, thank you very much, Helen. Nice to meet you, Helen.
Hi, Tony. Hi.
It is a pleasure to meet you again in these forums. And I would like to ask about
metrics to ensure that they can be third-party assessed. Big companies like Microsoft are looking to buy or place carbon credits in good projects, but the challenge is that having good projects remain a global challenge. That said, it also depends on the price of carbon, depending on either your geographic area or national, whatever the price of carbon is trading at. And so there are many aspects of carbon trading that I am not an expert. That is why we have not actually, as part of the U.S. ASEAN Smart Cities partnership yet indulged in carbon trading. But it is something that we are looking at, particularly with some of the projects that we are financing and will be financing actually in the near future. Let me just give you here in Makassar an early advance notice of something that will be coming out. We are working with the government of Singapore to be able to put out a request for proposals similar to what we did in 2022 for a Smart Cities Business Innovation Fund. This year, it will be between Singapore and the US, a $6 million capitalization for all kinds of projects that support urban challenges. And so this can be projects for small businesses, for universities, for NGOs, or for a consortia thereof that support city needs. And these are the projects, like for example, the one that we finance in Tangerang on the biopack, the bioplastics. This is a project that could potentially have interest in the carbon trading market, but the price of carbon needs to be high enough in order to be worth going through that process. So this is all I can share with you right now. I'm sorry I can't give more information, Donnie, but thank you for the question, and look forward to continue working with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen.
Thank you very much, Pak Dani. And Helen, on behalf of the organizing committee and the government of Makassar, we would like to say thank you for your willingness to join us. We understand now it's nearly midnight in US, but you are able to join with us. So I really hope that one day you are able to travel to Makassar and meet with you in person here in Makassar. Thank you so much. Kita berikan aplaus kepada Bu Helen.
Thank you very much.
Saya kembalikan ke MC. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih untuk moderator yang telah memandu jalannya sesi pertama dengan materi pertama yang juga tadi telah sama-sama kita sampaikan. Terima kasih untuk Senior Researcher at Hasanuddin University, Bapak Ansar Yadi SKM MSc PhD yang telah menjadi moderator untuk sesi pertama tadi.
Ya, betul sekali. Dan tentu saja Bapak Ibu hadirin kita lanjutkan rangkaian Rapat Koordinasi Khusus Pemerintah Kota Makassar Tahun 2024 dengan bersama mendengarkan sambutan sekaligus membuka secara resmi Rapat Koordinasi Khusus Pemerintah Kota Makassar Tahun 2024 oleh Kementerian Dalam Negeri yang dalam hal ini diwakili oleh Kepala Badan Strategis Kebijakan Dalam Negeri Kementerian Dalam Negeri Republik Indonesia. Kepada Bapak Dr. Yusarto Huntoyugo dengan hormat disilakan.
Baik, berikan suara tepuk tangannya untuk yang mewakili Menteri Dalam Negeri Republik Indonesia.
Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita sekalian. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang terhormat Bapak Wali Kota Makassar, Bapak Insinyur Haji Dani Pomanto. Yang kami hormati Bapak dan Ibu Forkompinda Provinsi dan Kota Makassar yang hadir. Yang kami hormati Konsul Jenderal Jepang di Kota Makassar, arigato gozaimashita. Yang kami hormati para pimpinan perguruan tinggi, negeri dan swasta. Yang kami hormati pimpinan OPD dan seluruh pejabat fungsional dan pejabat yang berasal dari kelurahan, kecamatan yang hadir secara virtual dalam pelaksanaan kegiatan hari ini. Although expert as a speaker from around the world, from America, Australia, Japan, China, thank you for attend for this special meeting, important meeting in Kota Makassar. Hadirin dan undangan sekalian yang berbahagia. Pertama-tama kami menyampaikan permohonan maaf Bapak Menteri Dalam Negeri karena kegiatan yang tidak bisa ditinggalkan di Jakarta mewakilkan kepada kami untuk hadir dalam pelaksanaan Rakor Khusus Kota Makassar yang dilaksanakan hari ini. Pertama-tama kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala, kita bisa hadir pada kesempatan pelaksanaan Rakor Khusus yang menurut kami merupakan satu contoh praktek baik dalam penyelenggaraan pemerintahan yang dilaksanakan oleh Kota Makassar dengan pelibatan lebih banyak stakeholder dalam pelaksanaan kegiatan pada hari ini. Bapak Ibu sekalian, sebagai bagian dari tugas Kementerian Dalam Negeri, Kementerian Dalam Negeri sekali lagi mengapresiasi kegiatan yang dilaksanakan hari ini karena menjadi bagian yang sangat penting dari sinergitas antara pemerintah pusat dan daerah dalam melaksanakan perencanaan pembangunan, sekaligus menjadi salah satu event yang menunjukkan bahwa Kota Makassar merupakan salah satu kota terinovatif di Indonesia. Tepuk tangan dulu untuk Kota Makassar. Tahun 2023 kemarin, selaku pembina inovasi daerah, kami menyampaikan terima kasih dan penghargaan kepada Kota Makassar yang telah menjadi kota yang terinovatif di Indonesia. Bapak Ibu sekalian, low carbon with metaverse ini merupakan salah satu jenis inovasi yang diharapkan dapat menjadi bagian yang tidak terpisahkan dari penyelesaian masalah. Pembicara terdahulu sudah menyampaikan tentang SDGs, terutama capaian ke-9 dan capaian ke-13. Ini sangat-sangat relevan dengan kegiatan yang kita laksanakan kali ini, yaitu climate action dan adanya inovasi dalam penyelesaian permasalahan yang berkaitan dengan tugas-tugas penyelenggaraan pemerintahan. Bapak Ibu sekalian, tugas pemerintahan itu dibagi atas beberapa urusan, yaitu urusan absolut, umum, dan konkuren. Khusus yang ada di Kota Makassar ini merupakan tugas-tugas yang sifatnya konkuren, yang didesentralisasikan kepada pemerintah kota, terutama untuk melaksanakan urusan-urusan wajib dengan layanan dasar, urusan wajib tanpa layanan dasar, dan urusan-urusan pilihan. Khusus untuk inovasi yang dilakukan yang berkaitan dengan metaverse, kita sudah sangat akrab menggunakan Oculus umpama. Ini merupakan salah satu bentuk penerapan dari metaverse yang dapat dilakukan atau digunakan untuk menghadirkan realitas itu secara virtual. Dan kita akan berinteraksi, melakukan berbagai aktivitas sebagaimana realitas sehari-hari dengan menggunakan alat bantu yang kita sebut sebagai metaverse. Banyak hal yang dapat dilakukan dengan metaverse ini dan kami harapkan terjadi kolaborasi antara SKPD atau OPD yang ada di Kota Makassar, terutama Dinas Lingkungan Hidup, lalu ada Dinas Perhubungan, berikut seluruh unsur yang ada pada OPD di Kota Makassar. Beberapa manfaat untuk penerapan kebijakan low carbon, Bapak Ibu sekalian, untuk kota-kota diharapkan akan meningkatkan kualitas udara. Yang berikutnya akan menurunkan risiko penyakit, dan pemerintah secara aktif telah melakukan upaya untuk merintis adanya perdagangan karbon yang sudah dibuka di bursa komoditas yang ada di Jakarta. Ini sudah sesuai dengan kebijakan OJK, dan yang terakhir bisa mendapatkan hibah dari Badan Pengelola Dana Lingkungan Hidup. Untuk tahun 2022-2023 kemarin, Provinsi Kalimantan Barat, Kalimantan Timur ini sudah menjadi salah satu penerima dengan hibah kurang lebih sebesar 25 juta US dollar. Dengan demikian, kami berharap Kota Makassar dari waktu ke waktu akan terus mendapatkan manfaat dari kegiatan low carbon yang diinisiasi hari ini. Kondisi saat ini, Bapak Ibu sekalian, Indonesia masih termasuk salah satu dari 10 negara penghasil emisi karbon yang disebabkan dari peralihan lahan yang ada di Indonesia. Indonesia menempati posisi kedua setelah Brazil, di mana sebanyak 930 juta ton CO2 atau berkontribusi sebesar 19,9% dari total karbon yang dihasilkan dunia pada tahun 2013 sampai dengan 2022. Ini tentu menjadi kekhawatiran kita sendiri, dan kita akan berusaha untuk menjadi bagian dalam penyelesaian permasalahan ini. Demikian juga kalau kita memperhatikan per kapita emisi gas rumah kaca di Indonesia, Indonesia memang masih lebih rendah dibandingkan dengan negara-negara lain. Kita berada pada peringkat 105 dari negara-negara dan menghasilkan per kapita sebesar 4,47 juta ton CO2 per kapita per tahun. Kualitas udara juga menjadi salah satu penentu untuk pelaksanaan low carbon, khusus untuk Kota Makassar. Ini berada di tengah-tengah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, dengan skor sebesar 859, kualitas udara ambien rata-rata karbon monoksida di tahun 2018. Data 2022 untuk Sulawesi Selatan ini sebesar 90,35. Dibandingkan dengan Jakarta yang sangat-sangat rendah, yaitu hanya sekitar 68,09. Bapak Ibu sekalian, dari data sistem informasi pengelolaan sampah nasional, seperti dikemukakan juga oleh Helen dalam paparan tadi, kita masih mengalami masalah dalam penanganan sampah. Untuk itu, lewat low carbon ini, kita berharap akan ada terjadi peningkatan pengelolaan sampah yang ada di Kota Makassar. Beberapa strategi untuk peningkatan kualitas low carbon, setidaknya ada 6, yaitu pengolahan sampah, lalu konsistensi dalam konversi energi, yang berikutnya adalah penataan kawasan pemukiman, ruang terbuka hijau, transportasi berkelanjutan, dan yang terakhir adalah peningkatan kualitas tata kelola pemerintah. Bapak Ibu sekalian, untuk Kota Makassar, dari hasil indeks inovasi tahun 2020 dari 2019-2022 menunjukkan prestasi yang cukup baik, dan pada tahun 2023 ini berkategori sangat inovatif. Salah satu prestasi terbaiknya yaitu telah melaporkan sebanyak 107 inovasi, dan semuanya dapat dikatakan memiliki tingkat kematangan yang cukup tinggi bila dibandingkan dengan laporan-laporan inovasi yang disampaikan oleh daerah lain. Bila memperhatikan jumlah inovasi Kota Makassar berdasarkan tahun penerapan, tahun 2023 sebanyak 59 inovasi ini yang dihasilkan tahun 2022 dan tahun 2021 sebanyak 18 inovasi. Demikian juga dari sisi inisiator masih lebih banyak disampaikan oleh ASN di Kota Makassar dibandingkan dengan para pihak yang lain, yaitu dari DPRD dan dari masyarakat. Dilihat dari bentuk, didominasi oleh inovasi yang berkaitan dengan pelayanan publik, diikuti oleh tata kelola dan inovasi lainnya, dan berdasarkan jenis catatan kami, inovasi digital sebanyak 18 inovasi dan 95 inovasi yang merupakan inovasi non-digital. Dari kondisi ini Bapak Ibu sekalian, dapat kami sampaikan bahwa banyak inovasi yang ada di Kota Makassar ini yang dapat direplikasi oleh daerah lain sehingga ekosistem inovasi dari waktu ke waktu akan semakin meningkat. Bapak Ibu sekalian, untuk contoh-contoh inovasi yang ada di kota lain yang barangkali bisa digunakan atau dijadikan referensi oleh Kota Makassar, kami sampaikan melalui task division yang ada di Kemendagri, di antaranya dari Jakarta, ini ada bus toilet, ini menjadikan pengolahan sampah di Kota Jakarta menjadi lebih baik dan terakses terutama pada pemukiman-pemukiman yang sangat padat. Contoh yang lain dari Wonogiri, yaitu sampah plastik menjadi BBM, ini juga menjadi salah satu penyelesaian penanganan sampah di wilayah perkotaan. Kota Cimahi dengan Rusunawa, Go Eco Green, ya. Yang berikutnya Kota Mojokerto dengan Bajak Sambal Terasi, ini juga bisa menjadi contoh dari penyelesaian pengolahan sampah di mana membayar pajak menggunakan sampah bisa langsung terintegrasi menggunakan sistem informasi yang disampaikan oleh pemerintah Kota Mojokerto. Demikian juga dengan Kabupaten Kutai Kertanegara dengan kelola listrik komunal Muara Enggelam, ya, Klik Me. GoBis atau Surabaya Bus ini juga merupakan salah satu contoh inovasi untuk mengatasi permasalahan transportasi di Kota Surabaya. Yang berikutnya Bapak Ibu sekalian adalah model integrasi layanan pemerintah daerah. Kami tahu dengan Kota Makassar sudah sangat baik dengan command centernya dan daerah-daerah lain juga sudah banyak mereplikasi dari Kota Makassar untuk penyelesaian integrasi sistem informasi di daerah masing-masing. Dari kondisi ini Bapak Ibu sekalian, kami merekomendasikan beberapa hal, yaitu pemerintah daerah berperan dalam menciptakan dan mengelola koordinasi antar satuan kerja di pemerintah daerah dalam usaha untuk menurunkan tingkat emisi karbon. Yang berikutnya penggunaan kendaraan listrik, pengelolaan pembangunan yang memprioritaskan hemat energi, lalu pemanfaatan tenaga surya sebagai pembangkit listrik, dan pengelolaan sampah yang berkelanjutan. Demikian Bapak Ibu sekalian yang dapat kami sampaikan, dan selamat kepada Kota Makassar yang sudah menyelenggarakan Rakorhus untuk mengintegrasikan seluruh perencanaan pembangunan dan di dalamnya diharapkan akan diikuti dengan inovasi-inovasi dari setiap OPD untuk bisa membangun ekosistem inovasi untuk Kota Makassar. Bapak Menteri Dalam Negeri sekali lagi menyampaikan salam hormat kepada Bapak dan Ibu sekalian dan semoga pelaksanaan Rakorhus ini akan sukses dan mencapai tujuan yang telah ditetapkan. Demikian, terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita sekalian. Om Santi 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 Om, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih kami ucapkan kepada Kepala Badan Strategis Kebijakan Dalam Negeri Kementerian Dalam Negeri Republik Indonesia, Bapak Dr. Andres Yusarto Hunto Yungo MPD, yang telah menyampaikan sambutan Menteri Dalam Negeri pada Rapat Koordinasi Khusus Pemerintah Kota Makassar Tahun 2024 hari ini.
Betul.
Sekaligus telah membuka secara resmi Rakorsus Pemerintah Kota Makassar Tahun 2024.
Betul sekali, dengan tema Makassar Low Carbon City with Metaverse. Boleh kita dengarkan suara tepuk tangannya sekali lagi Bapak Ibu hadirin?
Iya, supaya terdengar suara semangat dari seluruh lingkup pemerintah Kota Makassar yang telah hadir pada hari ini. Dan kita akan langsung masuk kembali untuk sesi materi. Masih di sesi yang pertama dengan judul Low Carbon in Policy Strategy.
Betul sekali, di sesi pertama materi yang akan kita dapatkan setelah mendengarkan materi dari Mrs. Helen, Bapak Ibu hadirin, kita juga masih akan mendengarkan materi dari international speaker yang akan membahas terkait dengan strategi-strategi kebijakan untuk nantinya pastinya dengan tujuan pengurangan karbon atau emisi karbon di Kota Makassar yang sustainable atau berkelanjutan.
Tepat sekali, dan kembali kami mengundang kepada moderator yang akan memandu jalannya materi di sesi yang pertama. Kami undang Senior Researcher Hasanuddin University, Bapak Ansar Yadi SKM MSc PhD. Boleh minta suara tepuk tangannya untuk moderator kita.
Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, baik, kita akan lanjut pada sesi kedua, subsesi kedua dari sesi pertama yang telah kita rencanakan tadi. Di sesi kedua ini akan ada 5 pembicara yang akan berlangsung secara simultan. Namun karena kita delay dari waktu yang sebetulnya, ada keterlambatan sekitar berapa puluh menit, maka mungkin saya akan sesuaikan waktu supaya kita bisa mengikuti dengan baik seluruh rangkaian acara. Ada 5 pembicara, mungkin saya akan percepat saja. Yang pertama adalah Profesor Wanda Su from Pennsylvania State University. I would like to check whether Professor Wanda Su has joined with us. Professor Su, can you hear me? Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Ini kami akan berikan yang kedua karena we are dealing with 3 different zone time. Our college from USA is already almost midnight, and sorry about this. Jadi sudah hampir tengah malam di Amerika, tetapi di Australia sudah sore hari. Jadi Amerika tadi malam untuk kita, tapi di Australia sudah sore waktu kita. Jadi kita akan coba menyelesaikan waktu dengan presentasi ini. Professor Wanda would like to talk about net zero carbon city in Makassar. Then the next presenter will be Dr. Long Ji-seng from China. Please, I would like to check whether Dr. Long Ji-seng has joined with us.
This is, I'm online.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Then the next presenter will be Professor Tony Wong from Sustainable Development MSDI in China. Sorry, in Australia, Monash University. Professor Tony, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Pak Hans.
Thank you very much, Tony. Then we'll be following up by Dr. Jonathan Lim from Singapore. Dr. Jonathan will talk about urban solution. Dr. Jonathan, John Lim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, good morning, everybody.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, the presenter will be Dr. Hirotsugu Kato from Japan. Dr. Kato, can you hear me? Dr. Hirotsugu Kato, can you hear me? While waiting for Dr. Hirotsugu Kato, we would like to continue the sessions. Each of the speakers will have from 10 to 15 minutes. And thank you very much for all the presenters to be patient and will join with us. Dr. Katsuhikato, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much for joining with us.
All right, just let me make a presentation. So, can you share my presentation first?
No, can you please wait in for, because we will be 5 serial presentations, and Dr. Kato will present in the last session. Thank you very much for your patience.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. All right, without any further ado, Bapak Ibu sekalian, untuk mempersingkat waktu, I would like to invite and welcome Professor Wang Dasu from Pennsylvania State to present his talk. Time and the screen is yours. Professor Zhou. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so glad to present our work to the city of Makassar. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, you can see here.
Okay, so so first, before we talk about our vision for the net zero carbon city in Makassar, I would like to introduce the definition of what is net zero carbon city, since we have been talking this a lot. So a definition I found from the Wikipedia is that a net zero carbon city is the one that reduces its carbon footprint to 0 by using 3 different measures. The first is to use renewable energy generation. The second is to reduce all the types of carbon emission from the city through energy efficient urban design, through technology use or lifestyle change. The third is to balancing any remaining emission through carbon capture. So with this definition, how can we apply to a city? This is a very interesting graph I found online. So from researchers from Princeton University. So they say that if we consider a city is a circle, if we want to achieve net zero carbon city, we should make sure the carbon across the boundary of the city is 0. So that means within the city, we will have to work on food waste, plant the trees, trying to reduce our energy consumption for buildings, for transportation, and recycle the waste, so that at the end, the carbon across this boundary is 0. So how can we achieve the net zero carbon city? So we have different measures we can do. For example, we can maximize our renewable energy generation. We can also conserve the water, because we use a lot of energy for water purification and cleaning. We can also reduce the waste from the city. The building, as Helen mentioned, that building consumes about 30% of energy in the world. So we can do energy efficient building. Here we can use LEED certified building as an example. For the transportation sector, which also counts about 1/3 of total energy in the world, we can electrify it. So for example, we can use electric vehicle, and also we can encourage people to use public transportation. Of course, a better way will be provide the trails that people can walk or they can ride bicycles. So basically, to achieve the net zero carbon city, we need to take different measures, and also together with the policy and the business support. So all these are the big picture. How about Makassar city? How can we achieve this goal in Makassar? Here, I did some literature search. So this is what I found, the Makassar city carbon emission profile. So different than the global data, as we can see in Makassar, about 33% of carbon emission come from our residential building. that's mainly related to cooking and also electricity used by buildings. Then about 15% of emission come from our commercial building, like office, hotels, hospitals. Then transportation comes about 26%. The industry is about 16%. The other sectors, like agriculture, they only count about 10%. So in general, as you can see, residential and the commercial together is about all the related buildings that count about 48% of total emission in Makassar. So as a summary, energy consumption due to direct emission, like using the fossil fuel for cooking or for the car, like the gas, or we can use the indirect emission, like electricity from the power grid. Because my understanding is that in Indonesia, nearly half of the electricity coming from coal-fired power plants. And then another large portion comes from natural gas or other fossil fuel. So renewable energy only comes about 10% of total electricity generation in Indonesia. So for Makassar itself, so we anticipate that the CO2 emission from energy sector is going to reach 1.4 million tons by 2030. So therefore, if we want to achieve net zero carbon goal for Makassar, then we should really focus on the energy sector. How can we reduce the emission from energy? So as Helen mentioned, a big way we can do is to make our building more efficient. For example, improve the building energy efficiency of residential building and commercial buildings. And by doing that, we can significantly reduce energy consumption so that we can reduce the direct or indirect emissions. So another method we can boost our reduction is through the renewable energy generation. So here are some data, again, I found from literature about renewable energy potential for Makassar. So there are 3 columns here. The first one is the rooftop PV in Makassar. The second one is mega solar in Makassar, inside the city. This is like solar farm for the utility. And then the third column is the mega solar outside of Makassar city. So as you can see, the available area of the rooftop PV is about 13.8 square kilometers. It comprises about 2,000 megawatt capacity, which can reduce the CO2 by 124%. That means if all the roofs of Makassar is covered by PV, it can provide all the electricity needed by the city. And so we also have large potential by using the mega solar, like solar farm inside the city, or even larger potential if we use the mega solar farm outside of city. So the solar is great clean energy. Then we need to think about which column should we focus on. Should we work on the rooftop PV, or should we work on the largest scale utility solar farm? So the advantage of solar PV, rooftop PV, is that if this can be installed on the building and then can be used by the building immediately, if we build those mega solar farms, then we need to have large transmission lines to connect the solar farm to the users, which will take more investment and much longer. And sometimes, it involves far more complex control with power grid. So therefore, we would recommend for the city of Makassar to consider rooftop PV as its approach to achieve the net zero carbon city. Then how can we do it? Here we got our idea from our current ongoing research project with Makassar. So this project is trying to deploy the smarter garden alleys in Makassar using the smart city concept. As everyone knows, Makassar is significantly improve the city environment by convert the conventional alley to the beautiful garden alleys. So our team with a few American universities and Indonesian universities, together working with City of Makassar, trying to install the sensor network to collect environmental data. And then we use machine learning to process the data so that we can understand how we can scale the garden alley to the entire city. By working on this project, so we develop ideas. How could we integrate the renewable energy into the current garden alleys? So in this case, we think about integrated energy, which is renewable, to the water. So because we have a lot of fish tanks or hydroponic system in the garden alley, which can produce food locally. If we do that, so we can use renewable energy to pump those pumps, to power those pumps, to circulate the water, and then we can raise the fish, we can grow the vegetables. And if there is a power outage, that means we cannot get the power from the power grid. Then we can use those on-site renewable energy to continue drive those pumps, and then we can also provide electricity to our residents. So basically, we are able to combine the sustainability with the resiliency through the smarter garden alley and community renewable energy. So recently, by working with my Indonesian colleagues and the city of Makassar, with net zero carbon alley in Makassar. So as you can see, we still have very beautiful garden alley, but then we have the rooftop PVs so that we can achieve the goal of net zero carbon alley. So as the city is made of thousands of alleys, and then if we have those beautiful zero carbon alley, then entire city can also achieve the net zero carbon city. So at the end, I would like to thank the National Science Foundation and the US Asian Smart City Partnership for their support of our research. So this is a joint effort of Pennsylvania State University, Virginia Tech, University of Colorado Boulder, and UGM, ITB, and the City of Makassar. So here's my contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Tepuk tangan untuk Professor Wanda Sun. Thank you very much, Prof. Wanda, for delivering you such wonderful talk, giving us some problems related to carbon city in Makassar and the strategy that Makassar need to do. I hope you will still be able to join with us. We will do question and answer in the last session of this session. Thank you. Yang berikutnya adalah Profesor Dr. Long Ji-Seng from China. Dr. Long Ji-Seng will talk waste to energy from Makassar low carbon city. Jadi acara berikutnya adalah Dr. Long Ji-Seng dari China yang akan berbicara tentang bagaimana membuat lingkungan yang lebih bersih, yang lebih bersahabat. Dr. Lang, times and screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, and Your Highness Governor of South Sulawesi, Mayor of Makassar, Secretary General of Makassar City, and dear provincial and municipal officials, dear international and Indonesian scholars and professors. This is Eric and from Shanghai SUS Environment, and representing Shanghai SUS Environment and Dr. Long Ji-Seng, and very honored to be invited to attend this annual forum online. And the topic today, I was talking about how to create a cleaner and more friendly living environment in Makassar City. And first of all, I want to share some of the ideas of how we can deal with our urban waste. Currently, the whole globe, I think we are facing a new challenge, is the global warming. Currently, we have some figures. You see the annual deaths caused by air pollution will be reached more than 7 million per year. And millions of people who live in the land then be submerged by the rising sea levels if the temperature continuously going to rise. And also, if we're predicting the future, that after 100 years from now, if we need the whole human beings will be survival in the earth that we need or require the 4 times of the current Earth's resources can be provided. So actually we have a very critical challenge here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please. We can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah. So also when we back into the cities, actually the city activities is also a very big challenge. That when we're doing the city urban activities, we'll also produce a lot of the waste, the green gases, which is harm for the further development of the cities. So how we can tackle with the waste challenge in the city is also a very big task for our management of the cities. So this come up our topic today. If we're looking back to the waste solutions, the waste business, according to the World Bank forecast, the global annual domestic waste production will increase to 3.44 billion tons by 2050, which was a growth of roughly 70% from 2016. On the other hand, on the same time, the waste disposal accounts for about 3.2% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, or around 1.5 billion tons. Normally, I think people not so much aware of this figure. Actually, it's a pretty big figure. If we put into comparison with the aviation and the shipping industries, the whole greenhouse gas emissions from waste disposal is approximately equal to those of the whole emissions by the aviation and the shipping industries. So sometimes we are not looking into this very big challenge, but it is existing and it is there and it is waiting us to be properly managed. So back to the waste, how we can tackle with this kind of challenge. One of the major solutions we have been studied and we've been experienced before is utilizing waste to energy or incineration to replace the current landfilling situation. And the waste to energy has obvious benefits of carbon emissions reduction, and instead of no matter it's open dumping or landfilling. And on the left-hand side, there is a figure, this chart, which is displaying that how the greenhouse gas emissions has been dramatically reduced or mitigated by utilizing the waste to energy. And the indirect and the direct emissions from the greenhouse gases has been dramatically dropped or mitigated by this technology. And on the right-hand side, we see the figure is how the China, Europe, Japan coming up with the waste to energy and replace the landfill in order to reduce the emissions from the waste solutions. And definitely right now, China, European Union became the 2 major waste to energy markets in the world. So what is the interactions between the waste solutions and the cities? We are saying that currently we are not only clean the city. Mostly when we people talking about waste to energy or waste solutions, they're talking about how to tackle with the waste final disposal. But now we see there is more we can do with the waste to energy or waste solutions. Is we're trying to make interactions between the waste solutions and the city activities, including the urban activities and also the industries. For instance, we are creating a concept of eco-industrial parks. And this has been applied into pretty many cities in Japan and China. Those eco-industrial parks is putting all different kinds of waste solutions in one particular area, not only for saving the land for the planning, but on the other hand, we make a dual cycle of materials of energy within this eco-industrial parks. You can see that, for instance, besides the waste to energy, we have medical waste, we have sludge, and the heat coming from the waste energy plant can supply the resource for those medical and the sludge treatment and the food treatment, food waste treatment. On the other hand, the residues from those medical waste, sludge, and food can coming back into the waste plant. In order to higher the efficiency of the material and energy recycling within this eco-industrial park. On the other hand, this kind of eco-industrial park can also interact with the other industrial parks by providing the energy, heat, cold, and electricity. There is a very small example. Actually, this is a pretty small city in Denmark, in the northern Denmark, is Kalundborg. This city is only within a population around 15,000 people. But as of the year of 2021, 12 companies in the Kalundborg Industrial Park have been linked to each other through wastewater, energy, and waste solutions, forming the world's leading circular production-based industrial symbiosis system. And it's pretty successful. And we can see there's an even bigger case in the Kitakyushu city in Japan. That is also a solid waste comprehensive treatment park, which is putting the housing waste, industrial waste, scrap car recycling, medical waste, construction waste, and sludge waste all in together in this eco-industrial park. And also applied with university institutes, R&D companies, and research institutes, which make this whole area in the region very vivid and fully interaction with the whole city's daily operation activities. This is another case which is carried out by SUS Environment in the Zhuhai city, which is neighbor to the city of Macau. In the Zhuhai city, currently we're operating also a eco-industrial park, which is including not only the waste energy, but also the medical waste, the recycling of the ashes, the sludge treatment, and the food waste within a eco-industrial park. Within this eco-industrial park and utilizing the circulation of energy and material within this eco-industrial park, we can make a CO2 reduction approximately around 42,000 tons per year. And by also providing the steam supply to the surrounding industries by 2,600 tons per day. So this is one of the examples which have been applied. One of the latest example in China, there is another eco-industrial park invested by SUS Environment, is the eco-industrial park between near the Beijing, the capital city, and it's serving the Beijing city for the waste incineration, also providing the energy, the heat, the cold, and electricity to the green energy data center. And they will also come up with an energy saving around 200 million kilowatt hour a year. So come from a summary from those examples we see in Denmark, in Japan, and China. Right now, we are not only targeting for a simple waste dumping or waste energy solutions, but try to make a low carbon eco-industrial park with a higher efficiency of the carbon reduction, higher the resource utilization and recycling, and finally, how to make a very interactive ecosystem with the industry, with the agriculture, and with the other different kinds of the urban activities. How we can bring to Makassar? Actually, SUS Environment is one of the leading company in China providing the waste to energy solutions, not only on investment and development of those projects, but also supplying the key equipment and technology to those projects as well. Currently, SUS have been supplied for more than 250 waste to energy projects across the nation in China, and treating more than 280,000 tons of municipal solid waste per day in China. And within our own ownership, we have more than around 70 projects across China with the capacity of 110,000 tons of waste per day. These are some of the symbolic projects we've been applied in China. For instance, the Beijing projects, and also on the very right bottom picture is the Hangzhou project, which is the current largest operation project in China, with a daily operation capacity around 5,000 tons. So we also proposed to the Makassar city that bring Makassar city to a zero waste very soon. And this is what we have been planned for the first waste to energy project will be applied in Makassar city. And besides, we're also trying to escalate this kind of proposal, not only for waste incineration, but also to a more comprehensive waste solution project facility for Makassar city and more interaction with the different industries and agriculture. And besides, we are also not only for the treatment for the daily generated solid waste, we're also trying to mitigate the current pollution and clear up the waste in the current landfill and create a livable land for all the citizens. And also we are targeting to deliver this project as soon as possible, so we can make this project will be the first batch of the projects put into operation under the National Strategy Project Program. So let's deliver it together. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Long Jiseng. Kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah buat Dr. Long Jiseng sebagai pemateri kedua. Kita belajar bagaimana mengolah sampah menjadi energi, dan kita lihat bahwa salah satu sumber karbon dari Makassar yang dijelaskan tadi ada rupanya berasal dari rumah tangga. Thank you very much, and please stay with us. We will have a question and answer in the last sessions. Yang berikutnya adalah Profesor Tony Wong. Profesor Tony Wong adalah guru besar di Monash University. Beliau akan bicara tentang the role of digital technology in implementing water sensitive city. Professor Tony, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. Kita sambut Profesor Tony Wong untuk materi operationalizing the global agenda, water sensitive and low carbon Makassar. Tony, time and screen is yours for the next 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for your invitation to make this presentation. I am going to talk about the context and the relationship between water management and low carbon Makassar. There are a significant influence between the climate action that we need to take and the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030. And as we start to think about solutions that might be low carbon, I urge all of us to also think about how that could influence the achievement of our targets in Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals. Because many of these global challenges that we talk about do come together, and that we need to find solutions that are not just specifically for certain framework, but one that covers multiple frameworks. We all know that with Sustainable Development Goals, we are halfway towards our 2030 agenda. And in a recent meeting in the United Nations, we are very concerned. We are very concerned because it doesn't look like any country in the world can achieve their Sustainable Development Goal targets, and that there is a significant push throughout the world, throughout all nations, to increase, to accelerate their efforts in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And yet when we look at climate action, we are also very concerned, as we have seen in this last year, significant records being broken with temperature, surface air temperature, and that it is quite alarming that at the current pace, we will not be able to achieve our targets of 1.5 degree increase from pre-industrial areas, as we have committed in our Paris Agreement. And the COP28 is a really good example. Recently, last year in December in Dubai, whereby this call for action has become much more intense in terms of doing something. Many countries and many cities are now striving to try and achieve low carbon development, net zero development, and the global movements of increasing green climate funds to try and increase our effort in climate mitigation and adaptations are increasing. In fact, in the recent COP28, the issue of climate and water, climate and food, climate and health are now elevated to discussions even at the presidency levels. And why I wanted to introduce my talk in this context is that there are many, many pressing issues that we need to address. Any solution that can help us address all of this or many of these pressing issues together will be the type of solutions that we need to invest in. Now, if you look at climate action, and if you look at, say, for instance, climate mitigation, you will find, for instance, that a net zero carbon emission is a very important policy, and I commend the city of Makassar for your effort in trying to strive to transform its operation into a low carbon operation and ultimately a net zero carbon initiative. From a water perspective, you find that there are certain things that we can do. They are not significant, but they can do. For instance, we need to harness our understanding of the water energy nexus. Currently, a lot of water is being used for energy production. Even as we move away from fossil fuel to an alternative form of energy production, such as hydrogen, you find that we are still reliant on ready access of fresh water. So we mustn't forget that as we develop our policies for alternative energy, that some of those alternative methods also rely on having ready access to water. But there is also water consumption in water operation. In the water sector, there are many pumps and there are many appliances involving water, and the efficiency of those energy consumption for those water operation is also something that we need to think about, the relationship between water and energy. Many of our water management, especially for flood management, for drainage, involve the use of nature-based solutions. And we need to understand the role of nature-based solution in carbon sequestration. As we heard from the previous speaker, the notion of urban greening and urban agriculture can also contribute to carbon sequestration. And we've also heard from the previous speaker the notion of solid waste management. I simply remember a project that I'm actually doing in Indonesia on the Citrum River in West Java, whereby we were invited to look at solutions to reduce the amount of solid waste pollution of that river. So our efforts in improving the environmental quality of the river is also linked to the way that we manage solid waste. Organic waste, for instance, is actually a very good means of converting to biofuel and energy production. Inorganic waste, as we saw in the previous, through some sort of incineration, can also be used for energy production. And so you can see the relationship that we can actually start to harness when we look at water management, when we look at solid waste management. But what is really also important that I'd like to remind you of is climate actions in terms of climate adaptation. The impacts of climate change are often manifested in water and mediated through water management. These impacts could be direct in terms of water security issues of droughts and floods and environmental degradation and loss of natural capital. Or they can be indirect in terms of food security, public health, and in response to heat wave and wildfires. And so you see water management can influence all of these things that are associated with climate adaptation, and any initiative that you may have on climate mitigation that also have a climate adaptation outcomes are going to be very beneficial. In fact, I would say that what we are striving to do in many of our developing countries, sustainable development goals, and water management is something that is closely aligned. This is a redrawing of the diagram whereby sustainable development goals number 6 on water can actually be linked to many of the other 16 sustainable development goals. And in fact, in an analysis that I have undertaken, we found that in fact, 50 of the 169 SDG targets across the 17 goals are directly influenced by water management. And a further 34 are indirectly influenced by water management. And so you see water management influence either directly or indirectly half of the SDG targets. And so I hope I can convince you that water management is an important consideration when we're looking for climate action or when we're looking for the Sustainable Development Goals outcome. The concept of water-sensitive city is in fact something that we have been developed at Monash University for over 20 years. And we came up with very simple 3 broad principles of a water-sensitive city, of what I hope Makassar can transform into. The concept of cities as a water supply catchment, meaning that we can access different sources of water within our city, that we can design our city to provide ecosystem services, and that our cities have the social and institutional capital to become water sensitive. 3 principles. The first principle of cities as water supply catchment is really simply about water recycling, fit for purpose use of water, stormwater harvesting, replenishment of our groundwater, and water circular economy. Those are the things that we need to do to build up a level of water supply security. Singapore is doing it, as you can see on your screen on your left, whereby they now have 3 different sources of water to build the security for them. Melbourne, as you can see, the middle picture is also doing it down to how buildings are designed that also have internal recycling, that water, grey water from our shower and the hand basins are recycled for toilet flushing within the building. That also helps us to reduce the type of energy in moving water in large loops. Moving water in small loops has got an important energy efficiency outcome. There are also other approaches around Australia and other parts of the world on stormwater harvesting and the use of nature-based solution to clean the stormwater before it is harvested into underground storage, such as you see on the top right picture, or for groundwater replenishment, how we inject the treated water back into a groundwater table so that in the dry months we can pull the groundwater, the water up from the ground aquifer. Sort of almost a local water circular economy. When we move to cities providing ecosystem services, you find that we are continuing the discussion on urban greening, the role of greening our city that deliver ecosystem services, such as creating ecological corridors and higher biodiversity that also provide safe passage for floodwaters, flood management, drainage, to use greening of our cities to enhance the microclimate, which actually reduces a lot of energy consumption for cooling. Water cleansing to make sure that our catchments have got all of these green nature-based solutions to clean the stormwater when they run off our streets and our urban area. And of course, once the water is clean, it can then be managed as a very important resource. How we can look at nature to protect waterways and rehabilitate waterway, and to protect and provide flood detentions for flood management. So you can see that the whole principle of our cities providing ecosystem services through nature-based solutions is a very important element of how we would design our future cities. And of course, cities comprising water-sensitive communities is really about government, like City of Makassar, creating the legislative and regulatory enabling environment for city transformation. The metaverse that we're talking about today is one of those government initiatives that will help to create the enabling environment for transformation. That the water sector, professionals like you and I, are equipped with the tools and the knowledge to innovate the way we manage water. And finally, our community that understands water, understand where it comes from, understand their impact of their action on the quality of water, and also understand how they should respond when there is a flood warning or when there's a drought warning, how they should respond. They are very important in what is a water-sensitive community. So when you look at all of those three elements, and then I want to talk about how does digital technology actually help in that transformation, and how does that link into your later discussion on the metaverse. It really is about real-time control. How do you use sensors and intelligent digital technology to understand how do we deliver multifunctional infrastructure and low-carbon operation? For instance, for fit-for-purpose water harvesting, we talk about how water can be harvested from different sources for different use. You don't need drinking water for non-drinking purposes. How do you manage your catchment and your city area from a water quality dashboard? The relationship between measuring water quality and knowing the quality of treatment that needs to be done for different purposes. Another example for ecosystem services, of course, is for flood management. There are already initiatives whereby through radar sensing that we can predict rainfall. If we can predict rainfall, we can provide early warning if there is a flood. We can automate flood defenses, such as what you see on the picture to your left. Or you can also look at how you operate multifunctional infrastructure, like the smart tunnel in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, whereby it is a tunnel for transport, but it is also a tunnel for flood management. And they can actually automate closure of certain roads, whether the top level, the bottom level or the top level of the road, to actually provide flood protection. So the digital technology can help us to actually predict floods, provide decision support for operations of floodgates or other multifunctional infrastructure. And of course, finally, the digital technology information helps us to govern and to manage our system, city water system much better. It influences human behavior in terms of how they use water. It influences the operation of smart building, and it also influences on the right diagram, the whole operation of your water network throughout the city. And so in summary, in my concluding remark, I'd just like to make 4 points. That water management impacts almost every aspect of city function and livability, and half of the targets of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Integrated water management and water-sensitive urban design provide this opportunity for transformative change in cities for greater climate resilience and mitigation. The initiative of Makassar City is one of those initiatives that we really need to harness, but I urge you to also think about water management when you think about the metaverse for Makassar City. Low Carbon City is a very important initiative for climate mitigation actions, understanding the water energy nexus that influence net carbon initiative. But this should be concurrently implemented with climate adaptation actions. Climate adaptation cannot be ignored when we actually start to think about climate mitigation initiative or climate actions. And finally, digital technology would fundamentally advance innovation in hybrid multifunctional infrastructure for climate mitigation and adaptation, and also strengthen the social and institutional capacity for climate action and sustainable development goals, including low carbon outcomes. Thank you very much for your attention.
Kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah untuk Profesor Tony Wong. Tony, thank you very much for your such wonderful presentations, and we understand that you have very tight schedules and then you have another schedule afterwards. So thank you very much for being patient and joining with us and delivering your talk. Despite we are delayed from the initial schedule. Thank you very much for again, Tony.
Thank you very much. I do have to go for a meeting now, but when I finish that meeting, I will come back and join the discussion.
Thank you, much appreciated. Presenter berikutnya dari Singapura, Dr. Jonathan Lim. Dr. Jonathan Lim akan menyampaikan topik tentang urban solutions to low carbon city. Dr. Joe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Can
thank you
hear me?
very much. Thank you very much. And times and screen is yours. Can you deliver a presentation in next to 15 minutes? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I believe the slides is already in the hall. Ibu Isma, would you like to share the slides?
Slide-nya bisa dicek. Bisa dibantu slide-nya? So we just try to fix the slides so that we can control from here. So alternatively, if you have the file, you can use your own computer if you want. Oh, already here, thank you. Yep, go ahead, Dr. Joe.
Okay, thank you. Can you see the slides? Because my monitor doesn't show the slides, so yeah, okay.
Can you see the screen? We can hear from here.
Okay, so you have 4 in 1. Okay, it's all right, no problem. Okay, hey, good morning, everybody. First and foremost, thanks to Mayor Pak Dani for hosting this event, and I guess it's very good to have all the people and the great thinkers to come together to discuss about this low carbon issues that we need to address. And I think sharing a lot of same common thoughts and belief with all the speakers that's ahead of me. Quite frankly, I do believe that the cities are moving very quickly. Urbanizations and cities are actually growing with a lot more people as we speak today compared to maybe 10, 20 years ago. So with the urban cities as exploding with people, I guess the topic that we are discussing today has very significant to mitigate so-called the carbon issues that we have in the cities. And so much so, in fact, ST Engineering, which is based here in Singapore, has been very proactively engaged with quite a lot of smart city solutions or urban solutions in order to mitigate what we call the carbon issues that's growing among cities. And Singapore is not spared, and as many of you have been to Singapore, Singapore, even though it's a small city, small country, we have a very limited land, but it's always been a very proactive mode in order to engage such low carbon drive initiative in this country. So just to look at this slides here, of course, smart city is a big focus for ST Engineering. We look at smart cities as in very big 3 dimensions, and most of them are mentioned by a lot of predecessor speakers before me. We look at cities that is actually trying to mitigate a lot of smart mobility, where you can actually reduce the carbon footprint emissions from internal combustion engines, from cars, bus, and your public transportations. It's always been the issues of all these public transportations as emitting carbon. So we look at how to really also mitigate smart environment. And I think this topic has already been very well addressed with some of the speakers before me, so I won't go deep into it. But to be very, very specific, we do look at energy management and waste management as well as water as one of the source of mitigating carbon issues in the cities. And of course, last but not least, despite all the elements that we have, we look at smart security as one of the main platforms in order to generate some of the secured cities around the world. So next slide, please. So just give a quick overview. In many cities that we are involved in, SC Engineering look at all the cities as very unique cities, of course, including Makassar city itself. We do emphasize a lot more in terms of deploying more smart and sustainable cities solutions to quite a few countries around the world. And I think at the moment we have about more projects as ongoing or completed. So next slide. So when we look at smart city, as Professor Tony just now mentioned, we look at smart city as in being enable the cities to digitize some of the informations that you have within the cities. Now, in order to mitigate climate issues and in order to mitigate carbon issues, you can't do without data, you can't do without informations. And in order to really address these sort of carbon issues, one of the first very major steps for cities to really plan forward is to really look at how to digitize the cities in terms of data collections. And these data collections will emphasize a lot more in terms of how do we solve the carbon issues within the cities itself. So yeah, next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Slide berikutnya.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to draw a very good example, even in Singapore itself, a very good example of smart city project that we just recently initiated. It's actually called the Pongo Digital District. Now the PDD is actually a brainchild of the a joint development between JTC in Singapore as well as ST Engineering. Now what we really do is that we look at the city as in terms of being able to integrate most of the information that is being derived in building the business park, the residence, the market village, the heritage trail, campus boulevard, as well as the Singapore Institute of Technology, which will be based in the Pongo Digital District. Now, all this centralized buildings and industrial as well as residential district, we are able to collaborate with multiple stakeholders within that the small district in order to provide data that correlate according to how the performance of this city will look like in terms of cooling, waste management, water management, energy management, and so on and so forth. So all this data is actually being fed and pumped into a centralized depository, whereby the data will be actually used as a basis to mitigate some of the do's and don'ts within the cities. And thereby we are able to use this model, the PDD model, as a very good example model to emulate throughout the Singapore's district within the country. So next slide, please.
Slide berikutnya. Slide berikutnya. Bisa dibantu teknis untuk slide berikutnya. Next slide, please. Mohon panitia bisa dibantu untuk slide-nya. Sorry, Dr. Jen, we tried to fix some technical issue. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So basically, if you look at the operation modes that we look at in the cities, of course, there are several solutions as mentioned by Professor Tony earlier. When we look at cities, we look at cities in terms of the transportations, right? I think one of the guests in the hall was mentioning about train solutions within Makassar. Yes, I think these are some of the very much long-term plan in most of the city planners, is to look at how the people mobility to the carbon footprint within the cities itself. So one of the biggest solutions that we look at is in terms of the train solutions within the cities in order to move people from point to point at a very much reduced carbon effect in the cities. Yeah, next slide, please. Yes, you can go to number 8.
Lanjut ke slide berikutnya. Ya, panitia mohon bisa dibantu.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just a quick example here. In fact, some of the planning, for example, in Ontario, in Canada, the Ontario line take a bit of time, and as Dr. Helen was mentioning early beginning, yes, each city will have its own unique challenges, and Ontario is not spared from the challenges that they have. So when they plan for the urban planning for the rail systems, this rail system took many years to fulfill. But eventually it gets kicked off, and ST Engineering is part of the so-called supplier for the Ontario solutions all the way from Singapore to Canada. So we did have a big participation to support the Canadian Ontario cities in upgrading their transportation systems to reduce the carbon footprint in Ontario. Okay, next slide, please.
Slide berikutnya. Slide berikutnya bisa dibantu panitia.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So we have the challenge of fulfilling also the same project in Taiwan. To be honest, this particular project in Taiwan, which is the Kaohsiung Yellow Line, we took a bit of years to really fulfill. In fact, just to give an example of this project, quite frankly, it started back in about 7 years back before we finally fulfilled the project. In fact, we started off at about 2015, if I remember correctly, before the project finally get awarded to kick off back in 2022. So the project is ongoing now. So these are some of the time frame that I must actually emphasize to city planners in terms of some of the mobility solutions that we have. So next slide, please.
Slide berikutnya.
Thank you. So when we look at cities, just to let everybody know that we don't look at city as just only for the train systems, but we also look at cities in terms of how to mitigate the traffic issues within the cities. Of course, there's quite a fair bit of Jakarta issues that we are trying to mitigate today. In fact, the famous Jakarta Macet, right? So the traffic jam issues in Jakarta is quite famous. In fact, until today, we are trying to mitigate some of the traffic issues within certain cities, and these are some of the planning that we look at in applying technology to be able to smoothen the process of a transition between the driver and public transport within the cities. So there are various technologies that's available. So we hope to really assist in this process of getting the traffic issues addressed as well. Yeah, you can go to the next slide.
Slide berikutnya. Next slide, please.
Reduce congestions is also the waiting time for parking within the cities. So we do deploy smart parking devices and platforms in order to help cities to mitigate car waiting for parking, and in terms of also the waste in terms of paper collections for payment. So these are some of the smart digital applications which I think is also very much applicable in the long term for Makassar. Yes, next slide, please.
Berikutnya, slide 12. Slide 12, mohon panitia bisa dibantu.
So along with a lot of cars actually being converted to electric vehicles around the world, in fact, I think most of the cities are also looking at how to really not only deploy the EV chargings within certain cities, but also in terms of how to mitigate the charging requirements within the cities. So when you look at charging itself, it's also one of the very key elements that we are able to mitigate for carbon issues within cities. So yeah. Thank you. You can go to slide 13. Thank you. So from a big picture of most of the city that we collect data from, we look at cities in terms of how some of the things like smart lighting, things like lampposts, smart street lights, parking detections, and noise, even noise pollution within the cities, waste sensors and waste management within the cities, sewage level monitoring solutions within the cities, as well as automatic meter reading. So this could, in fact, also deploy to the water wastage within the cities. In fact, we do acknowledge that a lot of cities are losing waters due to aged pipes within the city. So a lot of pipes that live under the cities itself are old pipes, and it's been deteriorating for the last 50 to 60 years. And a lot of water wastage is happening within the city. So the water wastage itself is also an issue for carbon footprint. So you can go to the next slide. So just to give a very good example of what we did for Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, we did a 450,000 street lights deployment. One of the good issues about the deployment of the street lights, it helped Brazil to reduce its carbon footprint and also to be able to reduce its energy consumption within Rio de Janeiro, up to about 30% of energy savings in terms of the street lights deployed within the cities. Now, besides the deployment of the street lights in energy saving concept, they also benefited based on the fact that there are a lot more secure and safety aspect that the city is benefiting from the amount of street lights within the cities. Yeah, next slide, please. So in terms of the deployment, when it comes to smart city and also sustainable cities, we also look at the kind of integrations that we do, in fact, hope to deploy in most cities is also the smart security solutions. Now, when you talk about smart security, there are a lot of more AI deployment, a lot of more what we call the video recognitions deployment, as well as some of the key assets within the city's town hall. They can monitor the security within the cities. So this is one way of mitigating some of the security issues within the cities. Yes, you can go to 16, please. So one big effort for smart city deployment in terms of the energy saving is also cooling. So because of the urban cities cooling, For example, the hotel hall that you're staying right now is also consuming quite substantial amount of energy within the cities. So one way to really look at energy consumption is to really look at the kind of cooling elements that's within the cities. So ST Engineering is providing what we call the habitat urban cooling, which we call the DOAS solutions, to able to bring down energy as much as 30% and a recovery heat about 80%. So you can actually bring down the so-called the heat dissipations within the so-called the commercial buildings in order to use the carbon footprint in the cities. Yes, next slide, please. So for some of you who have visited Singapore, I believe you may have come to Chimes. So in Chimes, basically this is also a green energy cafe. The cafe uses what we call the habitat solutions, where it's an open air concept, but yet we're using the habitat cooling solutions, where we can bring down the F&B area to around about 25 degrees within a very comfortable temperature, despite the outdoor temperature rising from as much as about 35 degrees. The cooling space within the alfresco area is around only about 24. So these are some of the solutions that we do provide for reduced carbon footprint cooling, where there's no refrigerant and the energy saving is about 30%. So next, please. So in Changi Airport, if you are arriving at Changi Airport, most of the Changi Airport conveyor belt where your luggages are being deployed, they also use this what we call the urban cooling or the habitat cooling within this space in order to provide a cooling environment for the workers or the luggage handlers, so they can handle your luggage in a more proper manner. So we do cater to the welfare of some of this environment, so that the carbon footprint can reduce also in Changi Airport. Just to let you know. Yes, next slide, please. So for various institutions, infrastructure, cooling, industrial, these are some of the concept and idea that we're deploying to various institutions as well. Next slide, please.
Dr. John, we have a limited time. If you could complete your presentation in the next 2 minutes, that will be great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's going to finish. So again, this is another example of cooling for hospitals. Next slide, please. So this is one of my second last slide, just to share that, of course, we look at the platform and the ICT management platform within the cities in order to cater for a better city net zero carbon footprint. So that's the end of my slides. And of course, the message is we share the same sombre spirit from Mayor Dani, and we hope that we are able to make the Makassar and even more vibrant cities going forward. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Kita berikan tepuk tangan kepada Dr. Jonathan Lim. Also, sorry for some technical issue that delay your presentation. We apologize for that. Thank you.
No problem.
Yes. We hope that we can implement some of the solution in the future here in Makassar. Thank you. Bapak sekalian yang saya hormati, berikutnya presentasi yang terakhir, last but not least, dari presenter dari Jepang. Beliau adalah Dr. Hirotsugu Kato, Direktur Eksekutif Oriental Consortium Consultant Global atau OCG. Dr. Kato will talk about the project that has been implemented in the small island in Makassar here in Pulau Barang Lompong. Dr. Hirotsugi Kato, can you hear me?
Hello, this is Kato speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Dr. Hirotsugi Kato, you have 50 minutes to deliver your talk, and you can use your time now, so the time and the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction and having the chance for the presentation today. Nama saya Hirotsugu Kato dari Oriental Consultants Global, a consulting firm in the infrastructure sector in Japan. Today, I will introduce the Smart Island Pilot Project, which just started with the groundbreaking ceremony last Thursday. Next page, please. So first, please let me introduce my company. Oriental Consultants Global is a leading integrated engineering consulting firm in Japan. Our history is over 60 years, and we have worked with over 150 countries and over 1,000 employees all over the world. Main sectors are large infrastructure, and we are covering the climate change, renewable energy, and disaster resilience. And next page, please. So in Indonesia, we also have worked for many projects, such as modernizing Jakarta fishing port, the project for the development of regional disaster resilience plan in Central Sulawesi, and Hasanuddin University Faculty of Engineering Development Project in Makassar. Okay, next page, please. So now just I would like to make an explanation of the Smart Island project. This Smart Island project began its study in the year prior to the pandemic, 2021. The study has been supported by the Japanese government, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, and JICA. The project was also presented and authorized at the ASEAN-Japan Smart City Network high-level meeting, which includes Makassar City among its 29 city members from the 10 countries. The project site is located on the Balampo Island, about 30 minutes boat ride from the Makassar city. The island only has electricity at night and now during the day. Therefore, there is no ice maker and cow storage facilities. This project aims to promote the island fishing industry by establishing a cogen system, utilizing the solar power generation system. Next page, please. Currently, ice is purchased from the Makassar city, which requires a land trip of 1 hour by boat. This incurs fuel costs for the boat and also fails to secure a sufficient quantity of ice. In this project, we'll introduce an ice maker and cold storage facilities powered by the solar power generation system to the island. This will allow fishermen to secure sufficient amount of ice at a cheaper cost. Concurrently, we will conduct training to improve the quality of the fish, with the aim of the enhancing fish quality for the domestic luxury market and for export. This will lead to improved fish quality and increase in the income of the islanders. Additionally, it will reduce transportation fuel for the ice. And with the ice maker and the cold storage facility powered by the solar power generation system, will contribute to CO2 reduction. Regarding fish traceability, we will utilize QR code to provide information on when and where the fish was caught, ensuring the safety and peace of mind for the customers. Next page, please. So the pilot project will be conducted with the cooperation of Hassani University, spearheaded by the Pemerintah Kota Global and Keynote Milan Energy, an electricity service provider in Japan. We will also receive support from the Ministry of Home Affairs and Makassar City, as well as from the PLM. Okay, next please. Regarding the schedule for the pilot project, the project is planned to last for 1 year. We initiated the project with the groundbreaking ceremony on Balampo Island last Thursday. Moving forward, we'll proceed with the procurement of the equipment, and by July of this year, we expected to complete the installation of the necessary facilities. Operations will be set to begin in next August. Okay, next page, please. So after the pilot project, we plan to expand it to the surrounding islands and across Indonesia. This project is a private business investment project. We are funding the pilot project ourselves. And for the subsequent expansion, we plan to utilize private funds such as green fund and ESG funds. Of course, we're very welcome to those interests for the investment. And furthermore, we aim to collaborate with the PLN to supply the entire island with renewable energy power and to expand into resident services such as remote medical care, education, and waste management in conjunction with Makassar City Metrobus. Although this project has just begun, we aspire to create a business investment model for the smart and low-carbon island that can be expanded to other islands in Makassar City and eventually throughout Indonesia. So we would greatly appreciate everyone's cooperation. So Oriental Consultants Global has an office in Jakarta, and to proceed with this project, Mr. Takemori is stationed in Makassar and is present at the venue today. Please stand up, Mr. Takemori. He's a site representative of this project. Please feel free to contact him anytime. We'd like to contribute to the realization of the low carbon city in the Makassar. Thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih banyak, and thank you so much, Dr. Hirotsugi Kato. We are looking forward for the project in Baralompo. You understand it was just recently officially announced, and then we hope that they will be implemented smoothly in the future. Thank you so much. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita sudah sampai di sesi akhir, dan kita juga agak terlambat, sekitar setengah jam dari sesi yang seharusnya. Oleh karena itu, sebagai moderator yang awalnya kami merancang mungkin sekitar 4-5 pertanyaan sesuai dengan jumlah tim, tetapi mungkin pada sesi kali ini kita akan coba persingkat waktu dengan mungkin sekitar 2 atau 3 penanya. Penanya pertama ada request untuk Dr. Profesor Wanda So. You still joining with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, thank you very much. Dr. Wanda, ada pertanyaan. There is a question from our college, from the head of Research Center for Energy from UGM. Is he joining with us? Yep. There's one request, a question from Gadjah Mada University.
Ansariadi.
Yep.
Nur Bahri dari Unhas.
Yeah, just wait. We are waiting for one from UGM first.
Okay.
Okay, while waiting for the game, there will be 2 or 3 questions from the floor. And please let us know to whom you address your question, because the several presenter. Jadi mohon diinformasikan pertanyaannya ditujukan kepada siapa. Yang pertama adalah Profesor Nur Bahdi Nur. Yang kedua dari sudut kiri atau kanan ada pertanyaan? Ya, saya kemudian yang kedua dari Bapak, ya mohon maaf ya sebentar. Kemudian satu lagi kalau ada. Ya, ada satu dari sebelah kanan saya. Terima kasih. Saya persilahkan kepada yang pertama, Dr. Nur Bahri Nur.
Thank you, moderator. Mr. Wuzu, to make low carbon in Makassar city, we must boil or make green city area. My question, how many percent actually good green city area at Makassar city area? Thank you.
So I think this question goes to Dr. Wanda Su. So the question is here, how many percent the green area in Makassar should be to reach low carbon city? Can you go straight?
Okay, thank you. This is a very good question. I would say this is really depending on how much energy consumption we're able to reduce, right? So that then we can supply the remaining by renewable energy. Based on the literature I found, if we maintain the current consumptions, we probably will have to have about, I think, 10 square kilometers of PV panel cover the city. So that means almost the majority of alleys has to be garden alley with renewable energy. However, if we're able to significantly reduce the energy consumption, I think the number of PV panel installation can be reduced. And also, other speakers introduced the other methodology, for example, using the waste to generate the power or and other technologies can also offset the energy demands.
Thank you very much. Jadi salah satu tadi yang disinggung adalah bagaimana penggunaan lorong wisata untuk supaya bisa lebih banyak hijau di Makassar. Thank you so much, Dr. Wanda Su. From the second question from this side. Yep. Bisa, masih bisa. Mohon di mic-nya ada satu, Pak. Ada mic-nya di belakang. Ya, mohon diingatkan kepada siapa nanti ditanyakan.
I think for the speakers, sorry untuk yang kedua kalinya, ini karena relevan. I think first of all, we want to mention that as a part of Hasanuddin alumni organization of South Sulawesi Province, we visited some location in Singapore. One of them is Marina Barrage. What we are going to say, Prof. John, that easy for Singaporean to build or to establish the facility because of their strong commitment from the leader, from their top leader. It means they may easy to allocate resources, budget, people, and community responsibility to support the big project of Marina Barrage. What I want to say is, especially in terms of South Sulawesi province here, we are facing difficulties about integration, about the commitment from the leaders, especially from like, we call here Maminasata. I was also involved with a project called a green financing project here, and it's not easy to implement what we call collaboration here according to the mass transportation here. So, learning from your side, from Singapore, we really need a strong leader to allocate resources. There's no problems between one Bupati or district or city of Makassar, for example. So, can you what can I say, what your comments about the need to have a strong leader here in South Sulawesi province? What are the leadership we really want to have or to have here in South Sulawesi province or Indonesia in general? I think for those speakers, you may answer my question. We really need a strong leaders to implement the idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think these questions go to Dr. Jonathan Lim, posting a very hard questions.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes,
it is.
Learning from your experience in Singapore, that a very strong commitment starting from the top positions, and then we need it in Makassar in order to engage all the stakeholders. Dr. John Lim, can you please comment on this? Thank you.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So, yes, as I mentioned, we've been to many cities. But again, this is very much my personal opinion, right? It may not be the same opinion to a lot of speakers. But my opinion, in most cities, I guess the biggest challenge, I call it PPP also, you know, PPP, right? The first P is the political will, right? The political will. That's number one P. The second P would be the policies. All right, you got to make the policies. Right, you should have the policies to really execute what you want within the cities. And the third P, basically, I see as a platform. Right, the platform, as mentioned by Dr. Helen early, is to be able to create that kind of interchangeable informations and data that you collect that further feedback to the systems in order to mitigate some of the things that you wanted to improve and upgrade subsequently. So it's a very quantifiable, very measurable way of looking at city progresses in this aspect. And of course, it boils down to a lot of political will, policy making, as well as a platform to mitigate the issues that you have within the cities. So I wish you well in this aspect of generating the PPP within Makassar. Yeah, that's my thought. Yeah, that's my thought.
Thank you. That's a very such great recipe on 3P. We hope that we are in Makassar will be able also to adopt this 3P policy. That is political commitment. Yes, political commitments, the policies, and the platform. Thank you so much, Dr. John. Bapak Ibu sekalian, masih ada satu penanya dari sebelah kanan saya. Silahkan Pak, kemudian dari tokoh agama, kemudian ditujukan kepada siapa presenternya. Saya persilahkan.
Oke, thank you. Pertanyaannya untuk semua. Oke, I will introduce, my name is Yonggris. I am from the Buddhist Association South Celebes. I know it's very interesting to hear how important technology engineering to overcome the carbon emission. But all we really need is the community participation, yeah, and besides also, of course, the seriousness from the government. And social needs a moral boost. It's very important. Even our government already do the best, but the community must support full. Yeah. It's very important for to success the program. Especially, it's all from religious leaders. It's very important because our citizens now, our community, have a high spirit religion. And so I think it is necessary to make a reorient from our theological discussion to the like a discussion of heaven and hell, yeah. And we must give the most focus to the humanity. And I want to ask how to improve the attention of our community to success all this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a very important question. In order to implement all the solutions and then to ensure that all solutions are sustainable, we really need community participations. And then we want to hear from the research person for the speaker how to actually improve the community participation to all the solutions in order that when they implement it, they are all sustainable, particularly including informal leader, like religious leader, so the community could participate in implement all the solutions. Dr. Jim, probably you are going to comment on this, and followed by Professor Wanda. The screen is yours. Dr. John?
Yeah, I think, in fact, very good question again. I do feel the sentiments of many religious leaders and community leaders are also coming forward to look at holistic approach in terms of trying to help mitigate some of the carbon issues within the cities. I mean, right here in Singapore, we do see a lot of changes, even in many of the Buddhist community, where we do have a lot of paper burning, so to speak, in temples and religious establishments in Singapore. In some of the temples, just a good example of some of the temples here is even using the burning process as to generate energy, back to the temple and back to the community. So they even use a thermal generators to generate some of the waste energy from burning the papers back to energies that's being stored within the temple itself. So this is a very good example of some of the religious establishment trying to recover waste energy into reusable energy within the establishments. Just to share. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. Dr. Prof. Wanda, you want to also add a comment on this?
So I fully agree with Dr. Lim, and also I just want to add some of my personal experience by working with Makassar Garden Alley. So we have been working with the Garden Alley and with the Makassar city over the past 3 years. We have learned that some Garden Alley are very successful because the community members benefit from the Garden Alley projects. In addition, those alleys, you tend to have the champions. So who is really driving this for, the Garden Alley project? So I'm thinking about we can deploy the similar strategy, right? When we're trying to push the low carbon city concept to Makassar, can we trying to benefit our community members through those low carbon projects, and also try to find our residents who is willing to serve as champion for those low carbon projects. And then the project is more welcomed by the community members, are more easy to be successful.
Thank you very much, Professor Wandasu. Tony, would you like to add on this? I know you have some experience on improving community participation during project implementation to ensure that the project will be sustainable. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, still mute. Can you hear me? The question is,
yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much. I was unable to unmute my microphone before, but I actually wanted to add a few things from the previous discussion, if I may. I think I'll start with leadership. And there was a question asked about leadership. And, I've been working in Makassar for nearly 6 years now in the revitalization of informal settlements. And I have always been impressed with the leadership of the mayor. And I really like to acknowledge that the mayor, leadership is also about being receptive to new ideas and willing to try new ideas. And I really do like to acknowledge Mayor Danny for his leadership in that sense. In relation to engaging with community or even starting with innovative projects, the role of demonstration is very important. We don't have to start projects with a big ambition of wholesale change, because the way to bring politicians to see what is going on, the way to bring community to understand what we're trying to do requires demonstration. And so with any of the initiatives that we hear from our present speakers, it is important for us to demonstrate it and invite government officials, bureaucrats, elected officials, and the community to come and see it and actually be able to understand what it is supposed to be doing. And of course, university has a very important role in monitoring and evaluation. That then provides the foundation for upscaling. And that would be the approach that I encourage, that we hear a lot of good ideas. Sometimes it's quite daunting for both bureaucrats, public servants, as well as community. And we need to sort of calm everybody down with some really good demonstration. And in Makassar, I don't think there's any shortage of political leadership.
Thank you very much, Professor Tony, for sharing your experiences in Makassar. And then I also like to hear the experience from our colleague in China, Professor Long Jiseng. Can you hear me? Still join with us?
Hello?
Yes?
I'm here.
Thank you very much. Would you also like to give any comments on these issues?
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Bruce from Shanghai SUS. Ini saya mau mewakili Dr. Long Jiseng, to answer this question. I heard from Bapak bilang gimana caranya kita bisa libatkan masyarakat sekitar yang dari proyek kami, dari proyek low carbon. Of course, karena perusahaan kami hanya fokus one thing.
Geraha Pena Dua kabupaten di Toraja, yakni Kabupaten Tanah Toraja dan Toraja Utara, yang menjadi destinasi wisata favorit bagi wisatawan lokal maupun mancanegara. Keindahan alam dan keunikan budayanya, serta lokasi wisata yang sudah mendunia, menjadi salah satu sektor terwujudnya green tourism. PT PLN sebagai salah satu penggerak roda ekonomi bangsa dan motor dalam katalisator suksesnya transisi energi menuju net zero emission 2060 di Indonesia, turut berkomitmen mendukung pengembangan destinasi wisata berkelanjutan atau green tourism. Maka PLN memasuk 100% energi bersih untuk menyukseskan transisi energi di wilayah tersebut. Program Green Tourism tersebut dikemas dalam tajuk Gentle, yakni Green Electrifying Ecosystem kawasan wisata Toraja dan Toraja Utara yang berbasis energi ramah lingkungan. PLN optimis dengan sinergi bersama stakeholder, program yang turut mendorong kampanye penggunaan energi bersih tersebut dapat turut memberikan sumbangsi dalam peningkatan animo wisata di Kabupaten Toraja dan Toraja Utara.
Anda mempunyai penyakit diabetes?